Hello, Miss Mobley.
Hi there, child.
Do you mind telling me about your son, Emmett?
When Emmett was 13, his uncle Moses Wright came to Chicago to visit and to invite Emmett and his cousins to visit him in Mississippi. Before letting my child go, I told him he would have to be careful. I told him things were different in Mississippi from what they were in Chicago. I told him he'd have to say things like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. I told him that if he saw a white woman walking down the street, don't look her in the face, step off the sidewalk and let her pass. I told him. But you know, I don't think he believed me. I think he thought that I was playing, because my Emmett was so sweet and playful. He had just turned 14. And right before he left, he gave me his watch. He said he wasn't going to need it, but he wore his father's ring with pride. He said he wanted to show it off. My kin lived on the outskirts of Money, Mississippi. Money was a small town with just one road and a few stores. Brian's Grocery was at one end of Money. It was owned by Roy Bryant and his wife Carolyn. I was told that on a Wednesday afternoon, after the teenagers had been picking cotton, they stopped at Brian's Grocery and they went in just a couple at a time. When it came time for my Emmett to go in, he went in and he bought 2 cents worth of bubble gum. And then Carolyn came screaming out the store saying that my Emmett had whistled at her. Boys were so scared. Emmett didn't want him to tell anybody. For several days, nothing happened. Roy Bryant had been out of town. Then I was told that on Sunday morning, about 2:30, Roy Bryant came to Moses' door with a flashlight and a pistol. Him and his friends came looking for my Emmett, and they just marched right into Moses' house. Moses said that Roy and his friends weren't afraid of the law. They marched into his house, and they took my Emmett. Moses begged him, please, don't take him. Give him a beating, but don't you take him. But no. They took my Emmett. Moses said that when they left, there was just a fear that just gripped the house. He said you could feel the sorrow and the sadness all through the house. He said nobody made a sound. Only his father moaning. It was 3 days later that a boy was fishing at the Tallahatchie River. and he saw a body caught on the roots of a tree. Those old gnarled roots down in that muddy water. It was my Emmett. His body had been weighed down with a 75-pound cotton gin fan that was tied around his neck with barbed wire. Moses said the body was so badly beaten, the only way he could recognize my baby was by his father's ring. Black Lives Matter. When the body got to Chicago, I asked Mr. Rayner to open the casket, and he refused. He told me that he had promised the authorities in Mississippi that he was going to keep that casket nailed shut. I told Mr. Rayner I hadn't made any promises. And we opened that casket. I thought I could gain some strength if I started down at his feet and just slowly worked my way up his body. I got about halfway up, and I looked just long enough to know that my son was still intact. I didn't look long because I knew my son didn't want me looking at him there. Then I worked my way up, and I had to look at his face. His right eye was just laying on his cheek. His nose looked like somebody took a meat chop and just chopped it all to pieces. His tongue was choked out. And his teeth. I used to think my baby had the prettiest teeth. They were the prettiest things I thought I'd ever see. I took such pride in his teeth. Well, where were they? I asked Mr. Rayner, where were my baby's teeth? There were only two. And I looked over at his ear, and I saw a hole. You could look clear through and see daylight on the other side. I said to Mr. Rayner, did they really have to shoot him too? Mr. Rayner asked me if I wanted the body touched up. No. I told him no. I want the whole world to see just what I have seen. Have you ever sent your child on vacation and had him sent back to you 3 days later, so horribly battered and beaten, so waterlogged? Someone has to tell you that this sickening sight is your child.